Hey, it's Meg. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a Q&A. I asked over on my community tab on my channel and also over on Instagram stories if you guys had any questions about junk journaling or journaling in general, and you had a lot of questions. So this might be a long video and I might not be able to get to everyone's questions, so I'm so sorry if you don't see your question here. I did have quite a lot of questions. So if I haven't answered your question in this video, drop a question down below. Maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. I thought I would journal as I chat to you guys and answer these questions. So the first question I have is, what free items do you most commonly use? So for me, I really like using different bits of packaging. So whether it's things coming in the post or things that I've bought, I really like to be creative with taking something that would otherwise go in the bin to waste and see how I can repurpose it and use it in my journal. I also like using envelopes and things like that. So that's probably the most common thing that I would use in my journal, is probably anything packaging wise, just because I think there's such a variety as well of things you can do with it, whether it's something for the background of your journal page or for an embellishment, things like that. So yeah, I love to be creative with different packaging in my junk journal. How long have you been journaling? So not junk journaling, but journaling in general. About 10 years, I would say, on and off. Junk journaling though, maybe like 3 years. So not that long really, but yeah, I'd definitely say if you haven't been journaling that long, then it's all about practice, isn't it? So, you know, even if I look back at my journals from a few years ago and you see journals today, you can definitely see a difference. Have you always been interested in journaling? So I've always been creative and like loved sort of arts and crafts and things like that. So I guess you would say yes. I haven't really always journaled. Sometimes it is a bit of a on and off thing, but yeah, I've always loved like arts and crafts and things like that. So I guess you could say that I have always loved journaling. I'm just trying to decide what part of the page I'm gonna work on. I've already worked on that bit. Do you always have an idea for a journal page, or do you play with the layout until you're satisfied? So sometimes I will know what I want to journal, but not necessarily what the actual layout is going to be. So I will pick maybe a colour scheme or some materials out and think that yes, I'd like to journal with these specific things, but in terms of like a layout, not necessarily. I normally just see how it goes from what I've got. So I will gather things ready and then have an idea of, like I said, what I want to put on the page, but not necessarily in like which order or anything like that. So that's kind of how I approach it, because I think it gets a bit too rigid if I try and plan it too much, and kind of sucks the fun out of it a bit if I'm so rigid with it, because sometimes I'll be journaling and, you know, I will do something that I maybe didn't even think I was going to do. So great example actually is here when I did this envelope into a little pocket with a window. That totally wasn't planned. I just did it during a journal with me session, and I really love how it turned out, but I didn't plan that at all. So I kind of like building my pages organically and just sort of seeing what comes of playing with different pieces of paper, things like that, layering things up. And sometimes as well, if you plan something, it, like, you know those ideas that like they sound great in your head, and then when you actually put them onto a page you think, this actually doesn't look how I thought it would look. So yeah, I think as well, if you have too rigid of an idea of what's going to happen on the page, sometimes then you can be a bit disappointed with what the result of that is. So I like to have an open mind when it comes to what my page is going to look like, and then that just helps me then to just sort of play and experiment and see what I'm going to create on the page. You find it easy to get into the groove of making. So, I mean, if you enjoy it, then it's obviously, I think, a lot easier to get into the groove. I must say right now though, I'm kind of struggling a bit with where I'm going to start on this page, and sometimes this does happen, but the way that I kind of push through it is I will just pull out different pieces of paper, layer them, see how things look, move things around. Sometimes even just like starting is the hard part. So, you know, just laying things down, seeing what they look like, playing around with different textures, patterns, layouts, colours, everything like that. And then I kind of find my way then with what I want to happen on a page. And this is not turning out the way I want it to at all. So let's see. This is actually a prime example of me not being able to get into the groove of my making. I really want to replicate what I did here with the collaged papers. I really like that effect. Let's see, maybe I'm doing the wrong corner. Let's try this corner. Do you use your junk journal as a diary or for random things? So for me, it's not really a diary. It's more of a place to play creatively. I do have a actual like diary journal, if you will, where I do writing and stuff. That's where I do all that. I don't really do that in my junk journals, but I do a little bit of writing, but it's more little snippets or quotes, things like that. Not actually, you know, dear diary, today, blah blah blah. Like, that's not how I use my junk journal. You can do that, obviously, nothing's stopping you, but that isn't how I approach my junk journal. That's just my personal preference. Do you journal by yourself or did you take classes? So I have taken a few online classes, and you can definitely learn a lot from taking an online class. Mostly I kind of taught myself, you know, by just experience of experimenting and playing with things, or you know, free resources, so like videos on YouTube, and you know, looking at what techniques people have used and trying to see how I can use that in my journal. So I wouldn't say that you have to take classes. You can definitely learn, you know, as you go, from free resources, things like that. But yeah, there is also value in taking classes if that's your kind of thing. Because obviously taking a class as well, it's a bit of a time commitment, especially if you're paying quite a bit for the class, because you want to get obviously the value out of it. So yeah, you don't have to take junk journal or like journal classes, but they are quite good if you know that you kind of respond well to being like guided through things, rather than more experimenting and kind of, you know, seeing how things go and winging it almost. So yeah, so I've not really taken any dedicated classes, and I've not taken any related to junk journaling, I don't think. What notebook would you recommend for beginners who aren't ready to make their own journals? So I would say to you, you are ready to make your own journal, and I have, you know, some really accessible beginner-friendly tutorials. I have one that doesn't even include sewing, so if you've just got some papers, a glue stick or some tape, you can create a journal like this. Super easy, and I would really recommend making your own journal, especially a junk journal, because it's really fun. and you can use any papers that you have to hand, so you can really customize it and make it your own, and it's just really fun. But if you did want to use a notebook that's pre-done, I would recommend anything that has thicker paper so that it can sort of withstand you journaling on it, whatever you're going to throw at it, and also one that's not too expensive, because we've all been there when we buy an expensive notebook and then you kind of get stage fright and don't actually want to use the notebook because you don't want to ruin it, almost, because it's, you know, you've paid like however much for the notebook and you don't want to ruin it. So yeah, I would get the cheapest that you can that has decent paper if you don't want to make your own, but I would actually tell you to make your own. So that would be my suggestion for you. Where do you get your supplies, ephemera, downloads, washi tape, etc.? So this was by far the most popular question about supplies, ephemera. Where do you get things? Please could you give me a list of shops? And I'm probably not going to give you the answer that you want, purely because I don't really buy that much journal supplies from like traditional shops, if you will. So I love going to charity shops or like thrift shopping, and you know, using secondhand materials, so like old books or postcards, bits of packaging, things that you maybe wouldn't necessarily consider to use in your journal. I do have quite a bit of a stash of materials already, so honestly, apart from that haul that I shared a few weeks ago on my channel from Miso Paper, where I bought, you know, a couple of washi tapes and stamps and what have you, I don't really buy all that much in the way of journal supplies. And I would really, you know, remind you that you can use what you have. There isn't kind of a prerequisite that you need XYZ supplies in order to journal, or, you know, you can't junk journal unless you have this supply. So I would encourage you to use what you have and see what there is around you that you can use before you go looking to buy things. I know you obviously can't just like find washi tape on the street. Wouldn't that be amazing if you could? But you know, certain things like different papers, things like that, you know, you'll be surprised what is around if you just have a look. And normally, if your friends and family know that you like doing this sort of thing, they will normally go, oh hey, I had this random bit of paper and thought you might be able to use it in your journal. So, you know, maybe ask your friends, your family, if they've got anything that would otherwise be going in the bin, because that's kind of the spirit of junk journaling anyway, is using junk essentially. I know we kind of use more vintage stuff for the kind of prettiness, but the true essence of junk journaling is using what you have, using things that would otherwise be going in the bin. So all about that recycling and using what you have. So yeah, I don't have any shops to suggest to you because I don't personally, you know, order loads of stuff. So I think it would be a bit disingenuous of me to suggest that you need to go to this list of shops, because I don't really do that myself. What is my favourite supply and why? So this might be cheating because it's such a broad answer, but I think my favourite supply is paper. As you guys know, I absolutely love doing collage in my junk journals. That's like my main thing that I do, and you know, papers kind of encompasses everything really, but I just love the different textures and, you know, effects that you can get from different papers, whether it is packaging or found papers or scrap papers that you have. I do have in my stash some scrapbook papers and things like that, but they're not ones I would go out and buy. They're probably ones that I have in my stash, or someone's maybe gifted to me for like Christmas or birthdays, things like that. So yeah, I think paper is my favorite supply. Maybe washi tape too, a close second, but yeah, I just love collaging on my pages, and I think that if I couldn't do little scrap collages, then my pages wouldn't be mine. So I would say scrap papers are my favorite thing, and as you can see by my little box here, this is how I store the scraps and bits of paper that I have. And as you can see, I literally keep everything, the tiniest little scraps, random things that I find, lined paper. This is some sticker paper that I didn't use, but I can, you know, stamp on this. So literally I've got like the tiniest bits of papers, little offcuts, all sorts. So yeah, I literally keep everything in this little box, and it's a great way to just have this as a portable thing that I can just bring with me wherever in the house, and, you know, raid my scraps and start journaling. So yeah, wouldn't be without my little papers. What is your favorite white pen? So where is my white pen? Over here. So my tried and true is a Uniball Signo. This is in the broad, but you can also get it in different thicknesses. And where's a piece of paper? And it's just a really, I haven't used it in a while. It just gives you a really smooth, opaque line. So that is my absolute favorite, and I love using this for, you know, doing writing on brown or black paper, or for doing little details on a page, things like that. I think it looks really nice. So that is my favorite. So a Uniball Signo. How has your journaling style changed? So if we consider all my journaling, it's changed a lot. I used to do mainly just writing and more the traditional art journal, like mixed media look is what I was doing, because that was what was really popular, like in like 2013, 2014, was, you know, doing the paint on all the backgrounds and things like that. So I would use a lot more paint and like actual art materials, and then I kind of slowly transitioned into collage and using like vintage things and, you know, found papers, things like that. And then that kind of then transitioned into, hey, I can make the actual journal out of, you know, these papers that I like, the old book pages or music sheets, things like that. So then it kind of transitioned into junk journals. So I brought a few just to show you. So these are a few of my previous junk journals, and I do have flip throughs of all of these, I think, on my channel, if you want to actually have a full in-depth look at them. But this one is a single insert journal, and I was using a lot of big imagery. I really liked this. I might actually try this again in this journal, because I just love the effect that this gives. But as you can see, I was using different pages and creating pages out of, so this is like a postcard and then a book page, and I've glued them together to create a different size page, all sorts of different things. There's a lot less layering in terms of like close clusters that I do now, but you can still see some kind of similarities, and I think you can definitely see how things have developed in my journals. So I think this was one of the first junk journals that I did, where I actually found it out of different papers. I also did this one, which is from an old book, and I love how there's like things poking out of the edge of this with tabs and everything. And so this one, again, you can see different sized pages, there's like pockets. I really loved this journal, and all the different sized papers, and I was just including like cards and letters that I'd got, and almost just collecting things that I like. So it's just kind of like a visual representation of what I liked at the time. So obviously I must have liked this paint chip colour, and all these different images and things so it's almost like I'm just collecting in my junk journals the things that I like, and just sort of playing and experimenting with different things. I wrote a poem, things like that. So that's how these have developed, and then you can tell that I love the A6 because I went to this size and I haven't gone back from an A6 since I went into this one. So this one was last year, and again you can see I've got like little bits of writing, and you know the clusters are emerging. I really loved this journal. I love that page as well. So yeah, you can see this is obviously a lot closer to the kind of junk journal style that I do now. So yeah, that's kind of how things have changed, and you know, I think things always change. So if we look back at my journals in like a year, 2 years, then they'll probably be not completely different, but you'll be able to see, you know, a progression of something else. It's always when you found something that you like, and you sort of run with it. I tend to do that a lot. So yeah, I think it's always changing and evolving, with our like tastes and as we grow, things like that. So yeah, it's always changing your journals. So don't be afraid to, you know, change things up or do different things. Tips for using paint in your junk journal. So I think the most important thing to consider when you're using paint is what are you painting onto, because when we have a junk journal we have music sheets, book papers, all sorts of different papers, and you know they're not built for paintings, so they will have different thicknesses, you know, they will absorb water differently. So if you're going to paint, I would say first of all make sure that the paper is thick enough and can withstand it. Secondly, I would then pick something that is matte rather than shiny, because you're probably going to have an easier time painting over it, and if it's not matte then you can paint over it with gesso to prime your surface. And then thirdly, I would probably recommend using acrylics over, say, something like watercolour. You can use watercolour, but obviously given the name water, you'd have to be really careful what you're painting onto, and how it's going to look. So I think you'd have a much better time using acrylic. So yeah, you've just got to be mindful of what you're painting with, what you're painting onto, and then also whether the surface is matte or whether it's shiny. So, and I use paint in mine to do like splodges, and then I will collage onto them, or just to add little bits of detail, because when you paint it adds texture to your page as well. So I do quite like using paint, especially if I'm doing big like leaves and things like that. What is your storage like? Oh my goodness. So I have, like I said, this little box, and I have a little basket for my washi tape, and I have a little plastic box here for my stamps and things like that, and I also have a 3-tier cart. It's not the one from IKEA, it's actually from Hobbycraft. It has like my paints and all different things like books and whatnot. But aside from that, I am probably one of the least organized people, so when it comes to things like that anyway, so don't take your organization tips from me. I basically just live in a pile of papers, and that's just how it is. I mean, I try to be more organized and kind of sort through things, but yeah, that's just how it is. I will show you my I've got a folder that you get from like an office supplies shop. So this holds all my papers, and as you can see, it's just got goodness knows what in. So I probably actually need to sort through this, but this is basically how I organize, by not really organizing at all. So there is all sorts in here. I've literally got like this that I, oh actually I might use that, that I lino printed, all sorts of different scraps. So maybe I'll do a video where we actually sort through all this, because a lot of this I actually haven't seen in a long time. Yeah, absolutely all sorts in here. So my storage system is one of chaos, and yeah, it really needs attention. What are your favorite tools? So I like to keep things simple in terms of my tools. So I think at its most basic, it would literally be a pair of scissors, and they have to be small detailed scissors, because I love to do fussy cutting in my journals. So with the botanical like florals that I find in old books, I love to cut them out, and only detailed scissors like this is really the way you can cut them out. So I would say small scissors like this. Is a glue stick a tool? Maybe a glue stick, and that's pretty much it. As long as I've got scissors and a glue stick, I think I'm good. How long does it take you to complete a spread? This was another popular question. So for me, it depends whether I am filming it for a journal with me, or whether I am just journaling as and when. So if I'm journaling a page start to finish on a YouTube video, I normally have probably the best part of an hour's worth of footage, depending on what I'm doing on the actual page. So, you know, whether it's something more complex, or if I'm just doing something simple, or whether I'm showing you guys something. So yeah, probably about 45 minutes to an hour filming it. But when I'm actually journaling, like off camera if you will, I don't necessarily always do a page start to finish. I will do it in bits. So like a lot of these pages here, ooh, I can't show you, there we go. A lot of these pages here are not finished, so I have just done bits and pieces, and then I will come back and build upon them. So, you know, this probably was like maybe 5-10 minutes whilst I was watching TV or something like that. So I tend to do quite a lot of pages in stages, but then if I'm obviously doing a journal with me for you guys, I will sit and dedicate the time to doing like a whole spread, you know, something more like this, or I think I have another one over here, don't I? Yeah, or like this. And also this journal, can I just say, it's really easy to show you guys around the journal without moving it. That was unplanned. And yeah, even something like this, it's still got like little bits of elements on it, but it's not necessarily complete. I didn't realize I actually stuck these two pages together. These were supposed to pull apart, but never mind. So yeah, it depends, and you don't need like an hour every time to do a page. You can do it in bits. You can just work on maybe embellishments for your page on one day, and then come in and just do the background on another day, and then come in again and do more like details and things like that. It totally depends as well on how you journal and what suits you. So, you know, it suits me to do bits and pieces, whereas you might like to do a full spread. So that's how I approach it. how did you get into journaling and who inspired you? So like I mentioned, I've always been like creative, arts inclined. So I've done like art courses at like school and college, things like that. And I am also a writer by day. So for me, journaling, and then when I discovered art journaling as well, combining those two things just made sense for me. So that is kind of why I got into it, because when I found it, I was like, this is a way that I can combine, oh, I don't like this on this page at all. Okay, well, we'll use that somewhere else. Yeah, it's a way that I can combine being creative with also, you know, writing or quotes, things like that. And in terms of inspiration, when I was first starting out, I really enjoyed Jenny Belly and Julie Faye Van Balzer and oh, I'm blanking on her name. Basically, I just used to love hopping between like old school blogs when I didn't know how that you could subscribe to blogs and things like that. So I used to love all sorts of different, like, you know, the like old school like mixed media style art journaling, things like that. So that is kind of what inspired me at first, and then I just kind of transitioned into junk journaling. So like I said, I love all vintage stuff and like history, things like that. So for me, it was kind of then like a natural shift into using all these different papers in my journal, and I really love doing collage as well. So it was just kind of naturally evolving in my journal. Do you hoard papers or do you use them immediately? So I am a hoarder, as you can see, but I think it depends what it is, because if I know that it's something that I can't necessarily get again or similar, I am very precious about it. So like this little piece of wallpaper here that my friend Patricia kindly sent to me, absolutely gorgeous, and I have hoarded every single little piece, and I've been so sparing with what I've used on my journal. But I am trying to get better at you know, actually using my supplies, because at the end of the day, if I don't use them and they just sit in my drawer or in my box or whatever, who is that benefiting? I might as well use them in a page, because if I don't, then they'll just sit there. So that is what I'm trying to tell myself in order to get better with just using it. And you know, there will be more things to use. It's not like I'm going to use it and then I can never use anything ever again. So that's how I'm trying to approach it, is to just use it, and then, you know, I can find something similar, or, you know, it's not the end of the world, and I've probably created a nice hopefully a nice page from it. So that's how I'm trying to approach using my journal supplies and my papers and things. But I can definitely see how hoarding the pretty papers happens, and I am definitely guilty of it if something is particularly nice. If there is a particularly nice floral image, I often feel like I need to have the perfect journal page to go along with it. So yeah, definitely a hoarder. But I think if you've got something that's maybe a paper or an image, you can always scan it in, and then you've got a digital copy that you can print out. So, you know, then you have another version to use. That is something you could do. I think I want to put a label here. I'm just trying to look for something that is it's a bit too stark. That's a bit too wild, I think, for this page. That's a nice colour, isn't it? We'll go with this. How do you make time for art with a full-time job? So I think there's two things to this. The first one is doing it in bits. So like I said, doing 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, as and when you have little like pockets of time. That's definitely a good strategy. And then the other thing is you know, making it a priority. So if you like doing it and you want to do it, you make it a priority, you make time for it. So, you know, rather than the 10 minutes that you might spend scrolling through Instagram or something, you would then actually get your journal out and journal. So, you know, I think even if you're really, really busy, you've probably got 5 minutes, 10 minutes that you can journal, that you maybe might be just scrolling through your phone. So if you want to do it, I always think you can find the time to do it. So yeah, I think it's all just about kind of being smart with your time and prioritizing things. And yeah, I prioritize journaling. So, you know, some people might prioritize cooking really fancy meals that take like an hour or 2 hours to cook, because that's their thing. They love having fancy gourmet meals at home or whatever. That's not my thing. I like eating the food, but yeah, so for me, I like, oh, that's not printed the way I wanted it to. For me, I like art journaling and art in general. I also keep a sketchbook because I want to do more of my own art in my journals. So, you know, I've got a sketchbook here. So when I have 5-10 minutes, yeah, it's all just about prioritizing what you want to do. And, you know, if you want to do it, you'll find time for it. I think it's as simple as that. What's more important to you, decorating or writing? So for me, junk journal wise, if I'm honest, it's probably the decorating is the bit I like the best. As I said, I don't really include a lot of writing. I will include little, like, you know, snippets, the odd paragraph, maybe a quote, or you know, like a phrase, something like that, but not like reams and reams of writing. Like I said, I do that in my kind of actual journal. So for me, I prioritize the decoration. That's kind of like my creative expression. And then, you know, if there's a bit of room for writing, I will include it. And I also do leave room for writing spots. So when I'm putting together a page, I am conscious of the fact that I might want to, you know, jot down a few words about whatever it is that I'm journaling. But at no point will I just have a whole page full of writing. That is just not my style of junk journaling. But if it's yours, then obviously you can make sure that you have enough space in your pages to do that. So maybe you could, you know, do more of your collaging up against the edges so you've got space to write. But for me, that's not really what I come to my junk journal for. What technique do you find yourself going back to? I think it's got to be these little scrap paper clusters that I do. They pop up absolutely everywhere in everything that I do, even in my older journals. So like this one, I do like layered scraps of papers. So another example, even like here, layering things up. This one here, layering these little scrap clusters. So I kind of find papers that work together, colours, textures, what have you, and butt them up against a side or a corner and work that way. And doing this kind of already gives you a page layout without necessarily thinking about it too much. And then you can leave this part of the page blank if you want. So for example, this kind of looks really similar to this, doesn't it? Where I've got the collage on one side and then the page there you can see coming through. But yeah, I just love doing these little scrap collages. I just find it really fun to play with different papers, and it's also really easy to already know then what the layout is going to be, because it kind of lends itself to that. So it kind of then trims down how long I spend thinking about what the layout of my page is going to be, because I already know how it's gonna look based on you know, techniques that I'm using, things like that. I think I want to add a space here. I might add a bit of writing just here perhaps. Yeah, let's go with that. What do you do besides journaling? So my other creative hobbies, I'm an avid reader, and I can drop my Goodreads actually in the description if you're interested and want to see what I am up to, what I've been reading. Yeah, so I do a lot of reading, and I this year picked up crochet, so I've been teaching myself how to do crochet. Currently I can only do flat things, so I'm working on a blanket, but at absolute snail pace because I am just a really slow crocheter. But there's no rush to complete things. You know, I'm just sort of taking my time with it and enjoying the process of crocheting. So yeah, that's kind of some other things that I do, but mostly I do like journaling and, you know, art and sketching, things like that, but a lot of creative stuff. And then the final question that I had, and I realised as well, I journal so slowly when I am chatting away, so I'm sorry if it looks like I've barely done anything on this page, but I can't chat and do loads of journaling at the same time. The last question that I had was, please can you tell me more about Junk Journal July? So if you're new and you've not heard of Junk Journal July before, it's a it's a month-long challenge where we have 30 prompts, one for each day, over on my Instagram, and it's just a way that we can all junk journal along together. So basically you just do a prompt each day in July, post it on Instagram with the hashtag, and it's just generally a lot of fun. So this will be the 3rd year, can you believe, that I am doing Junk Journal July. We also do Junk Journal January, so it's a biannual thing, because a lot of people do ask whether, you know, it's a monthly thing, and running a challenge like this actually takes a lot of time. You know, planning, doing all the prompts, making sure they're all kind of unique, and then keeping up with everyone's posts on Instagram, because we have such a creative and buzzing community every round of the challenge. So this will be the 6th time that we're doing the monthly challenge, and it's always so much fun. So if it sounds like something that you would be interested in, then make sure you're following me on Instagram, because I will be posting the challenge announcement post with all the prompts towards the end of June, and I also have a special surprise lined up which I am super excited about, but I can't tell you just yet what it's going to be. But I would definitely say to stay tuned for that. So yeah, that was pretty much all the questions that I have time for today. Like I said, if I didn't get around to your question, or you have more questions and you've really enjoyed this Q&A journal with me real-time style video, then drop a question down below. Maybe I'll do a part 2 if we have enough people that would like to see that. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video, hearing me chat away and do a bit of journaling as well. As you can see, I've just kind of set up this page. I think we're going to do some writing here, and I think I need something here, but I'm not sure. And this is what I mean about coming back to my pages, because rather than forcing myself to put something there, I might come back, you know, on another day and think, oh yeah, this is what I want to put on that page. Oh, actually that might go. Let's put that there. So yeah, you know, coming back and adding different things. So I will just add some writing to this page, but I don't tend to do that on camera because I just think it's boring to watch me do writing on a page. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any more questions, like I said. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys next week in the next one. Bye!